One of the most fun things that I've gotten myself involved with since the last half of 2021 and the first half of 2022 has been 3D printing. In my game room, I now have so many 3D printed things that just makes my room more neat, more organized, more unique, more me. And I mean, it can be as complicated and as expensive as you want to make it. And there are ways to make it less complicated and ways to make it less expensive. And that is what we are going to talk about here today in this episode. Hey everyone, Gary here from Rock Solid Productions. Thanks for stopping by and checking out our episode that we have here today. I really do appreciate it. Now, what I want to know from you down in the comment section, have you ever been interested in getting involved in 3D printing? For me, I had been wanting to get involved with it for years. When I worked with the RC company, they had SLA printers, and it was always neat to see prototype parts. But I never really knew the behind the scenes of like how the machines worked or anything like that. And in 2021, I went to the Midwest Gaming Classic and actually shared a room with a good friend of the channel, Adam from One Up Card. Adam is an amazing 3D printer, so skilled, so just a wealth of knowledge. And what I love about Adam is he's a fountain of knowledge that is willing to share it to others to help me get better with what I am doing. And I've been able to make some really cool things, some of which I've designed myself, such as our Famicom Disk System disc holder. That's actually something I designed myself. There are other designs that I've taken and tweaked from others, like we have our tool stand here, we have the N64 display stand, new Wii remote stand that I just recently printed off last weekend, a Nintendo 3DS stand. There are so many cool things you can do with 3D printing to just clean up and really display your gaming collection and style. And that's where this guy here comes into play. The folks from Monoprice sent us one of their 3D printers. They actually sent us two. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we are going to be showing another one of their printers in a future video. What we're going to do is we're going to walk you through the setup process on this because this is one of their more budget-friendly printers. It's a good place for you to start. Kind of cut your teeth, learn what you're doing, understand what the slicer is, what a slicer is, and how you can go ahead and make some really cool stuff. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to assemble this. We're going to show you how to set it up, and we're going to do some test prints. Let's go get started. So starting off, we have our instruction manual. Stop, read this before unpacking your printer, and that is basically telling us to read through our instruction manual. Pretty good shot of what we are working with here. This is the MP Vector 3D printer, fully enclosed, auto leveling, easy Wi-Fi touch, 4 gigs onboard memory. Basically in the manual, walks you through setting up and getting to know your 3D printer, shows you how to unpack. So we're going to open the box, which we've already done. Take out the wrapping box paper out of the top. Be careful, filament tools and kit and power cable are all placed inside the wrapping. Take out the printer from the box, open the front door, take out the paper box inside the printer, and your unpacking will be completed. So let's do this. This is cool. Holy cow. So they include a full size, is this a 1 kilogram spool? No, half kilogram, but it's a good size. I like that a lot. And it is a transparent red, so this should look pretty cool. And power cable, little tool bag. On top of the printer itself, it had this kind of corrugated cardboard. Right here is where the filament was, and your toolbox would be right there. All right, we're going to turn you around here. So here you can kind of see how it is in the packaging. I apologize if my melon gets in the way. Feels like there's a handle on this side by the handle of the printer itself. Okay. And then we just have a lot of bubble wrap around the printer. You can see how filthy my floor is. I need to vacuum it. This is really a nice looking unit. First one that I have used that is self-contained. Let's get it set up on the bench here so you can get a closer look. All right, so let's lift this guy up. Not too terribly heavy, I'd say maybe about 15, 20 pounds. I apologize that we've got kind of a close-up shot. We're gonna pull back a little bit. Now we do have to finish getting it unwrapped here, and for this, just peel that straight off. Be careful you're not overly harsh on anything here, because you don't want to break the enclosure. I like this enclosure setup. So for beginners, I think this would be a great way to start out because there's literally no assembly required. With other printers, my other two printers I have, I actually had to assemble them all, and not being familiar with terms like what a Bowden tube is or any of that stuff, it really got confusing. Like, what the heck am I doing here? The fact that it is all self-contained should be really user-friendly for first-timers. Not that I'm an expert by any stretch of the imagination. Like I say, I've really only been involved with 3D printing since about October or November of 2021. And for our good friend John Riggs, we've got the plastic protector on the screen. Oh, that's so satisfying. And then it does have the cardboard inside here. Yeah, that's just it. Don't be such a weenie. It was just caught on the inside of the door. Now, let's take a look on the inside of this printer. So this is called your print bed. This is actually what you'll be printing on too. And the auto leveling, the reason why it's important is because if it's not level, left to right, front to back, you may have issues with your nozzle as it prints adhering properly to the bed. Now your nozzle is actually down below here underneath the print head. Now when this is plugged in, just like a soldering iron, treat it like everything is hot. Your nozzle and everything will get to be over 200 plus degrees. You want to make sure that you are treating this with the respect that you could possibly burn yourself on. I do love the fact that it's enclosed. Now it is a smaller print bed than some of the other printers that I have, but again, if you're just starting out, great way to do it. Now on this side here, it walks you through the filament assembly, how you can open the door and put your spool right in. Oh, looks like we have other cables for different regions, power supplies in here, so that's cool. So looking at where you actually put your spool of filament here, it'll actually go in this area here. Here's our spool. Now one thing of note is this is a 1/2 kilogram spool. Spools are generally sold in full kilograms. And that's this guy here. I use Hatchbox filament. I tend to really like the results that I get out of this. Now, as such, it won't fit in here. There's actually 3D printed parts that you can print so that you can be able to mount a full kilogram spool on the outside of your door. Now, granted, that'll void your warranty, but what you'll do is you'll have, and we'll use the red to start with here, is we'll put it on our spindle here, and that is where our filament goes up right there. So we will go ahead and check out the rest of the manual here before we move any further. Now to get started with this unit here, first things first is we need to go ahead and plug it in using the correct power cord. And I may have accidentally flipped the switch up already to turn it on. And now we are going to install our filament here. Well, that's a happy little ditty. And we will pull our filament out of the spool here and here. And one of the things that I will do as well is once filament gets bent like that, it's really useless. I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife and do a quick flush cut here on the desk. I love this color. This color is beautiful. And now with here, we're going to go ahead and put our filament up in. Now this is one thing that will become annoying with any filament printer, is that the spools like to kind of unravel a little bit. We have our filament installed. We're going to turn it around. Every now and then I feel a little bit lonely. Now looking at the display that we have here, we have build, tools, and filament. These are the 3 different menu options. So what we need to do at this point is we need to load filament. So we hit the filament button, load. Please make sure that there is filament in the tube. Then click the OK to load the filament according to the prompt. OK. So now it's going to heat us up to 200 to 220 degrees, I think, 235 if you see up there. Now while the extruder is heating, you can actually see that the print head has actually come up and is now higher up in the print bay itself. And it hasn't taken very long. It's already up to 219 degrees, so very fast heating. I like that quite a bit. Oh, and there we can actually see the filament is spitting out the side. The reason why it is going and attaching to the wall over here, and I apologize for the shaky cam, is there is a fan blowing off the extruder itself, that's the nozzle, and it's actually blowing it to hit the side. So we are okay that we've gone ahead now and loaded the print. We've loaded the filament properly. So now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and load a test file, don't we? So it actually has a 20mm box file pre-installed in here. We're going to just reach in here real quick. Pull off that filament. It may be a little bit warm to the touch. This is cool at this point here. So we're going to go ahead, shut that down. We're going to actually go back real quick because I want to see tools, network preheat settings, status, language, calibration, pre-adjusting. Please wait. It's pre-adjusting, so it's adjusting before it adjusts. So what it is doing now is essentially finding the bottom travel of the printer. Basically, it has a sensor that determines when the nozzle or the print head cannot go any further down. Oh, it's got a little headlight on it too. That'll be nice. So click the arrow to adjust the nozzle so it just touches the platform. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to grab a sheet of paper. This is the easiest way to set the height of your nozzle. All right, so like I mentioned, for this part here, all we're going to do is use a sheet of paper. We're going to bring it in under the nozzle. And at this point, it actually feels, what I'm going to do here actually, since this is such a small area, I'm going to rip the paper in half. Okay, so the nozzle is actually making contact with the print bed right now. That is not good. So we're going to raise it a couple points. Still getting contact. So now it's moving nice and free. Our Z-axis now is set to 8mm above where it was. So let's bring it down slowly but surely. There's 0.7, 6, 5. So I'm getting some resistance to the paper here. I'm going to move my hand so you can kind of see. 4. So I can't push it forward, but I can pull it out, and that's where I want it. So you can see here my extruder height is at 0.4 on the Z-axis. That makes sure that the printer head is low enough that the filament will adhere, but not so low that it's basically scraping the filament off. We're going to hit OK. Completed. So calibration is stored. Extruder is now homing. I can turn the LED on and off if I so wish, just depending on if I want to use the extra power. Now here's a cool thing. Check this out. Now, since this is a Wi-Fi enabled printer, you actually can use a built-in camera in here to kind of keep track of your prints. You can either have an auto mode, idling or printing. We'll mess around with that later. And then there's a buzzer, factory reset, auto calibration. I think this is the auto bed leveling. When the platform is uneven, it is recommended to turn on this function and check the start button below to make plane compensation. We are going to go now back. Build, and then there is the default file on here. We're going to go ahead and we are going to print this. And now at this point it's going to take I think it said about 10 minutes for this box to print. So here we have our test cube, and it's the perfect example of why I don't like using this base. Is called a raft. So basically it's a layer of filament that gets put underneath a model. This was a pain to remove, and as you can see here, it kind of deflected on the front as I had to use a putty knife to scrape it off. Not a fan of using rafts. I generally just stick to skirts. Now, we do have a thumb drive set up here with some files we're going to test print. One thing I didn't point out, you have to rename the file name to .g versus .g code, otherwise the printer will not see it. We are going to start first with our Discoon V2, copying file, and now copies it into local memory. And then just a moment here, I actually already had the print nozzle and the bed preheated. Now, one other thing I will say too, this was really hard to get off of the print bed. Don't worry about having to use like glue or hairspray or anything like that to go ahead and get adhesion to this bed. This bed adheres just fine. So we're gonna let this do its thing and we'll come back in about 45 minutes. So let's take a look at the Flash print software because I will be honest with you, I was having some issues getting this to print properly and cure. And what we're gonna do is we are going to open and set up a new file to print. As you can see, I can rotate our workspace here. The blue indicates the front. What I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna go to Thingiverse and we're gonna print out a Qtles. So now that we have Qtles queued up, no pun intended, I'm gonna pull that off of the screen and I'm just gonna drag and drop that file right here on our screen. The model is off the platform. Do I want to put it on the platform? Yes, I do. Model has errors. Do I want to repair? Yes, I do. Well, that's not going to work, is it? There's an easy fix to this. So what we're going to do, single click on there, come over here to scale, and we are going to take this down to 20%. There is Qtles right there. And as you can see, it is 120 millimeters by 94 by 4 millimeters thick. Now, if I want to, I could move the model, just click on move, and then I can move it all around if I want to. I can also rotate as I see fit if I need to, and I can make cuts if I need to as well. So I am liking this, so I'm gonna go here to print. So now under the preferences here, you have a printing window type expert or basic mode. I'm going to show you the basic to start with. So I've selected basic, I go to print. All it asks me here is machine type, material type. If I want to use supports or not, I don't. If I want to use a raft or not, I do not. Resolution, low, standard, high, or hyper. If I want a wall or a brim. A few other options. I can adjust the layer height, first layer height, adjust the shells, infill, the type of infill as well, speed, temperature, and others. Okay, so I can do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up here to File, Preferences, and I want the Expert mode because it gives me a little bit more control over the model as I print. So now if I go in here to print, you can see it still says Voxel PLA, and I have actually saved this as my own profile on here. Layer height mode, I can do a fixed layer height or a variable layer height. My layer height is set to 0.25 millimeters. I found that gives me a good balance of speed and quality for the print. The first layer height is 0.3 millimeter, and I'm sorry, I said 25 millimeters. It's 0.25. I have found this printer runs a little bit on the cool side, so where on some of my other printers I normally print about 110 degrees, I go to 10, 15, 20 degrees higher on here. I am actually going to bump this down to 225. The bed is set to 50 degrees for that. Base print speed, I have found anywhere from 60 to 100 millimeters a second works just fine, which is wonderful. Travel speed is set to 80 millimeters. Minimum speed is 5, so on and so forth. Retraction. So retraction is very important to make sure that you don't have stringing or other issues along those lines. I don't remember if that's enabled out of the box. What I've found for retraction is 6 and 45 tend to work really well for me for the quality. For perimeter, I pretty much have not messed with this a whole lot. Infill, top layers, top solid layers is 4, bottom solid layers is 3. Fill density is 10%. I can bump this up to 15 or 20. This isn't very thick, so going with 10, that's fine. I can change the fill pattern if I want it to be lines or hexagons, triangles, or 3D infill. Line tends to work best for me. You can change the angle as well on the lines if you want. Speed, solid speed, I haven't messed with that at all. Combine infill, I don't think I've messed with that at all. Supports, enable supports. This doesn't need any, so don't worry about that. Raft, I have rafts disabled. I hate rafts. It wastes so much material, and if you're having issues where you're needing to use a raft to get proper adhesion to your bed, just use something like a glue stick. That'll definitely help. Additions, I don't think I've really changed this at all, except for I've disabled wall and brim. Wiping tower, I don't know what that is, so I don't mess with it. Cooling, I've got that turned on. Advanced, don't mess with. Others, enable adjustments, no. Enable bridge, yes. I don't think I've done any changes here. So we have basically gone ahead and set up our model how we want it to print. I'm gonna hit OK. Now it's going to ask me to spit out where it's going to spit out the file. And as you can see here on my desktop, I have a 3D printer files folder. I have a file folder just for the Monoprice Voxel and a dedicated folder within that folder for sliced and flashpoint. So we're going to save it in there. It is qtles.gx. It is saved. See the progress bar down here. And now what it is doing is what's called slicing it. It's basically sending the data or setting the data up so we could send to our printer and giving us an approximate time for how long it will take and how much material it would use. So, and if you want to, you can also take this down and it'll kind of show you the different layers as it goes through and would be laying them down. So now at this point, I can either go back and work on a different model, or we are actually going to send this to our printer. And to do that, we are connected via Wi-Fi, as we are going to send G-code. So I'm going to click that. It's asking me to connect to it. Down here, status is busy. Extruders currently sitting at 28 degrees, going up to 225. The platform is warming up, and it has a print progress down below. That's pretty much it. This is the software that, for me at least, has worked the best with the Voxel. So what we're going to do now, we're going to let this print. We'll show you what it looks like when it's done. And then we're going to kind of share our thoughts, because I've spent quite a bit of time with this printer over the last few days, and I've got some pretty strong opinions on it. So I've spent the last several days printing and messing around with the Voxel from Monoprice, and a few things that I found out. First and foremost, I tried printing initially with Cura, and I found a profile that I loaded in because there is no profile for the Voxel in Cura. I was having nothing but problems when I was trying to print that way. I was getting issues where basically I was hearing clunking coming from the feed tube itself, where it wasn't able to push the filament through. I wasn't getting prints coming out. I was actually getting filament errors. I actually went then and used their recommended software, Flashpoint, I believe is what it's called. I'll have it linked down below. Once I switched to that, flawless prints each and every time. It was amazing how flawlessly this printed using that software. Now, it's not as feature-rich as Cura, but in talking to Kris over at Game Dad, one of the things that he kept reminding me about this printer, it's designed for beginners, it's designed for the novice. I was trying to do things that I had learned over the last few months in 3D printing. I tried to use it like, my two other printers I had. I tried to use it like with Cura, and it's designed around this Flashpoint piece of software. So once I did that, everything that I was trying to do basically worked very, very well. One thing that I was very concerned about with initially is the fact that this is a plastic build plate. And everything I saw, even in the manual, said you gotta flex it to get your parts and pieces off of here. Well, I didn't want to break this. I was being far too gentle. Once I actually went ahead and started flexing it, my pieces came off just fine. I did not have to use any adhesive or anything additional to help my models stick to the print bed, which was nice. I do have to say I absolutely 100% without a doubt love the color that the included filament provides. This kind of transparent red. This is beautiful. You can see from some of the prints that we have here, from the little Chinese cat of luck, from the square that they provide you as a test piece to go ahead and print out, from our Famicom little sign that we made, and even our N64 region free mod, all printed with this. I absolutely love the look of it. So much so that I'm going to kind of save this for some special projects just for me. So to use my Hatchbox filament, I actually had to do something I didn't really like, and I wish that they would address this and just include one of these in the box. So I found on Thingiverse this adapter here, and this allows me to use a standard 1 kilogram spool with the Voxel. Once I did this, it was perfect throughout. Now, I did try to have like just spools sitting next to it and whatnot. It needed some kind of a support for it to be able to properly hold the spool, for the spool to unwind and send everything inside the printer itself as it should. The Wi-Fi connectivity on here, I didn't think that I would care for it. Absolutely loved it. It was great for me to be able to send models right from my laptop to this. Now, I got to be careful in the future that there's not anything still on the build plate. That is something to be aware of. And another reason too why that Wi-Fi connectivity is important is the fact that there is no SD or micro SD port on here to be able to upload your files. It does have a USB port in the front where you can use a thumb drive. To me, not as convenient. Another thing that's not quite as convenient if you do use Cura or any other slicer program above and beyond what they recommend, the files are normally listed as G-code files. Now you have to delete CODE off the end of the file name and just have .g or .gx to load into this printer. It will not load standard G-code files. It's just the firmware that it comes with. Now I did update the firmware that is on here. That didn't really add or remove any features. Didn't fix that issue for me either. The quality of the prints is really, really good, and the speed is better than I thought too. The one thing for me that I keep coming back to at this price, the one thing that really kind of leaves me wanting more is the small size of this build plate. At 150 millimeters by 150 millimeters, there's a lot of things that I would normally print and have printed on my other two printers that simply will not fit on here. For example, my NES and Super NES cartridge holders that I print, I can't print those on here as they are. I need to go in and slice them and remove a cartridge slot out of each of those because they're just a little bit too long for this build plate. Above and beyond that, the wireless connectivity, like I mentioned, is great. The speed is good. The resolution is really good. Once I got the hang of their software, it was really, really good. Overall, this is a really nice machine. Now, I didn't try PETG on it because the hot end does not get hot enough. I also didn't try ABS because I just don't print with ABS. With the stink and smell of ABS, I didn't want that here in the house. But that is one of the nice things about the enclosure here, is it will help kind of keep all those odors contained. With this print bed and everything, I do think it is a little bit overpriced compared to what you can get from some of the competitors that are out there. For example, my 300 by 300 print bed printer that I have, I paid $230 for. This is about $100 more depending on the deals that are going on. My larger 220 by 220 printer, I paid about $140 for. Now, one thing I will say, so that is a printer that I bought from ANET. It's an ET4. And from the word go out of the box, I had a ton of trouble with it. I am still waiting 6 months later for them to send me a replacement Bowden tube nut for on the top of my hot end. Still hasn't gotten here. The great thing about Monoprice is the fact that they do have amazing customer service, great customer relations, and if you have questions, just reach out to them. I reached out to them when I was having my issues with Cura, and they're like, try the stock software, it should work with that. And what they recommend too is you can start your slicing and everything in Cura, export that file, and then import it into the Flash print or Flash, their software on this, and be able to print from there. I don't even do that. I spent some time, messed around with the software for this. I've kind of learned, okay, I do this in Cura, this is where I do this here. So I've just kind of gotten accustomed to this. Now, being able to do everything in Cura, and I am still gonna mess around and see if I can't get a good working model set up to be able to print in Cura. But for me, at the end of the day, what I love about this is the fact that I don't have to buy Amiibo stands, and I don't have to buy N64 cartridge adapters, and I don't have to buy stands for things like Game & Watches. I can just print them. And if I want to, I can take these to conventions. I can sell them there if I want to set up a table. But in the end, what this did for me is it just confirmed what I love about 3D printing is I could go out and I can buy this stuff and be out the money and whatnot, or I can go ahead and I can make it myself and have the accomplishment feeling of making it myself, in addition to the pride and like, you know, what I've designed in these already myself that I can go ahead and do. And that's how I basically got into my 3D printing as well, was essentially instead of buying products, I made them, or I set the money aside so that I could buy 3D printers so I could make them. Overall, this is a good beginner's machine. Don't think yourself though, as you are going ahead and using it to get set up. Now, we do have a 3D printer channel. I'll have that link for you right up there. I need to upload more content to it. One of the things that we may end up doing is, because this does have a built-in Wi-Fi camera, check the footage right here, and it's not the greatest resolution, but at least you can see if you have any print errors going on, if you have any issues like that as a print is going on. I may actually end up just streaming some prints to our secondary 3D printer channel. You never know. But if you do want to see too some other cool things that we've done with 3D printer, some of the stands we made, so on and so forth, go ahead, check out our 3D printer store. I will have that link down below in a pinned comment. You can also check out some of our other videos and all that cool stuff right here. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you want to help support Rock Solid Productions and be a part of our community, there's a number of different ways you can do so. First and foremost, join us over on our Patreon page or become a channel member here on YouTube. By joining through either one of those methods, you get early access to just about all of our video content, exclusive content, and a whole lot more. We also give you shout outs at the end of each and every one of our videos. You can also pick up some awesome Rock Solid Productions swag. We've got t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and more available through our Teespring store on screen right now too. You can also pick up some of our awesome 3D printed cartridge stands, amiibo holders, Nintendo DS holders, and more by visiting our 3D printer store on screen right now as well. Links for everything will be down below in a pinned comment. If you want to stay up to date with everything we have going on here at Rock Solid Productions, make sure that you're following us on the different social media networks. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/RockSolidProductions, Instagram at instagram.com/RockSolidProductionsGK, and Twitter at Rock Solid Studios. If you're looking to pick this and other retro and modern gaming accessories up, make sure that you head on over to CastlemaniaGames.com. He has a feature over there called Castle Cash, where the more you spend, the more you earn towards future purchases, and Castle Cash is just like cash. He also offers convenient payment plans for more expensive items over $50. Finally, make sure that you use promo code ROCKSOLID10 when you're shopping at CastlemaniaGames.com, as it can save you up to 10% on most items on the website. Again, thank you for watching this episode, and I cannot wait to see you again soon.